Here are your divorce papers, Claire. Sign them. Right here. Right now. In front of the whole family. Don't be foolish, Claire. You know exactly what is happening. My company is no longer bankrupt. It is bigger than it has ever been. You are no longer useful as my wife.
How can you say this, Richard? After all these years together, hey, you do this here? Like this? In front of the whole family? Without any warning?
That is exactly right. Sign those papers now. I need to move forward. With my future wife. She cannot bear to be just the mistress any longer.
Amelia, please cancel all the money I sent to my ex-husband's company. Right now.
What? What do you mean? Cancel?
The divorce papers landed on the white linen tablecloth at exactly 8:47 p.m. Not slid, not placed, dropped. The way a man drops something he no longer considers valuable. Richard Harmon set the manila folder next to Claire's untouched champagne glass and spoke without looking at her. 31 family members, 2 waitstaff and a woman named Brooke Calloway, seated 3 chairs to Claire's left, in the spot that used to belong to Richard's late father, watched it happen. "Sign it tonight," Richard said. "The house is already in the process of being transferred." Claire Harmon, née Mitchell, did not cry. She did not raise her voice. She looked at the folder, then at Brooke, who lowered her eyes just a half-second too slowly. That half-second told Claire everything she needed to know about how long this had been planned. 14 years of marriage, reduced to a dinner interruption. Margaret Harmon, Richard's mother, smoothed her napkin over her lap and said, in her particular way of making cruelty sound like etiquette, that a woman of Claire's background ought to be grateful for the arrangement Richard was offering. A 1-year lease on a condo in Midtown, and a monthly allowance that Margaret described as generous, the way you describe a tip to a waitress you'll never see again. The table had gone very quiet. Claire picked up her champagne glass and drank slowly. She set it down. She looked at the copper-colored key sitting beside the breadbasket, the old skeleton key to the Harmon family estate in Greenwich. The one that Richard's father, Thomas, had given her personally in 2016 when she signed the restructuring agreement. The key had no business being at this table tonight. It lived in the estate's private office. It was here because someone had placed it here deliberately, as a message. "This is no longer yours." Claire recognized the message. She also recognized that whoever placed it had made a serious mistake. She opened her purse, not for a tissue, not for her phone to call a friend. She took out a business card and set it on top of the divorce folder. "Before you ask me to sign anything," Claire said, "you should call that number." Richard glanced at the card. Patterson and Webb, attorneys at law. He smiled the smile of a man who believes he has already won. "You hired a divorce attorney, Claire." That's not a divorce attorney," she said. "That's the firm that handled the 2016 recapitalization of Harmon Group LLC. The word recapitalization changed the air in the room the way a window breaking changes a room. Richard's smile didn't disappear. It just stopped working. In the spring of 2016, Harmon Group had been 11 weeks from insolvency. Richard had been in Seattle closing a deal that ultimately fell apart. Margaret had been telling anyone who asked that the company was restructuring, which was technically true, the way a sinking ship is reorienting. It was Claire who had gotten the call at 2 a.m. from Thomas Harmon himself, not Richard Thomas, who sat in the company's Greenwich office, surrounded by bank letters, and told her the number, $4,200,000. The amount required to prevent the first Harmon business from being absorbed by creditors before the end of the quarter. Claire had grown up in Connecticut. Her grandfather had built a small but serious textile distribution company, which her mother had sold 18 months after his death for considerably more than anyone expected. Claire had inherited a portion of that sale at 26, managed it quietly, and grown it carefully over 9 years. She transferred the money in 2 installments. Thomas had wept, which was something no one in the Harmon family had ever seen him do. He had the agreement drawn up by Patterson and Webb, insisted on it. "I will not let this disappear into a handshake, Claire. and had it filed with specific protective language tying the contribution to the Greenwich estate, to the original Harmon restaurant in Westport, and to a 15% stake in the restructured company. Thomas died in 2019. After that, the story of 2016 began to change in the way family histories change when the person who knew the truth is no longer at the table. By 2022, Margaret was describing the recovery as Richard's strategic vision. By 2023, there was a framed article in the Harmon Group lobby about the next generation's steady hand through turbulent markets. Claire's name appeared nowhere in it. She had not corrected this. At first, because she loved Richard. Then because the silence had accumulated too long to break without looking like grievance. Then simply because she was watching and waiting and learning exactly what she was living inside. Richard's attorney called Patterson and Webb the following morning. The call lasted 4 minutes. Richard called Claire that afternoon. The conversation lasted less than 2. The dinner in Greenwich had been scheduled for the Saturday following the original dinner. Not a celebration this time, just Richard, Claire and Margaret in the same room with the same attorneys. Claire arrived in a grey blazer and carried a single folder, navy blue. She set it on the table before anyone spoke. The Patterson and Webb agreement filed in 2016, the estate as collateral, the restaurant, the 15% stake. Thomas Harmon's signature on every page, witnessed and notarized. And then beneath it, a second document, a supplemental clause, also filed, also notarized, added at Thomas's specific request 6 weeks before his death. It named Claire Mitchell Harmon as a protected party in any dissolution of the marriage, with rights to the collateralized assets intact regardless of divorce proceedings. Margaret said, "That's not possible. Thomas would have..." "Thomas did," Claire said. Richard looked at the pages for a long time. Margaret reached for her pearls, the gesture Claire had spent 14 years learning to read. She reached for them when she needed composure. Her hand found them and held. Claire picked up the copper skeleton key from the center of the table. She turned it once in her fingers, then set it back down. "I don't want the house," she said. "I never wanted the house. I want what I put in. I want what your husband promised would be remembered, and I want my name on the wall where it belongs." She signed the divorce papers that afternoon. The following month, Harmon Group LLC issued a formal statement acknowledging the 2016 recapitalization and its primary private contributor. The framed article in the lobby was replaced. Claire opened a small cafe in New Haven 6 weeks later. Warm light through old windows, wooden shelves, good coffee. She named it for her grandfather. She never mentioned the Harmons again. She didn't need to. Some people spend years making themselves small enough to fit inside someone else's story. The ones who survive it aren't the ones who shout louder. They're the ones who kept the paperwork.